Welcome, everyone. My name is Sarah Sims, and I'm the Assistant Director of Professional Development for the Brown School here at Washington University in St. Louis. Thank you for joining us for today's program. It is a part of our Black History Month series on Open Classroom. Today's program is special because it's hybrid with online and in-person viewers. For those of you who are online, we're using a Zoom webinar format, which means that we can't see or hear you, but we would love to engage with you through the chat. So please feel free to say hello where you're zooming in from, and you can post any comments. For everybody else, for everyone rather, we will be recording today's session and posting that recording on our Open Classroom page, which is brownschool.wustl.edu/open-classroom. You can also sign up for the rest of our Black History Month webinars at that same link. And now I'll welcome my colleague, Dr. Veta Sanders-Thompson, who is the E. Desmond Lee Professor of Racial and Ethnic Studies and our Associate Dean for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion here at the Brown School. Dr. Sanders-Thompson will kick off today's program and introduce our speakers.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, thank you for being here, those online as well as those in the audience. And I want to thank Sarah for her opening and for hosting the online audience on our Open Classroom platform. At this point, just to remind everyone that Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. Also known as African American History Month, the event grew out of Negro History Week, the brainchild of noted historian, African American historian Carter G. Woodson and other prominent African Americans. Other countries around the world do celebrate this time, and that includes Canada and the United Kingdom. So at this point, I'd like to share our land acknowledgement. Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Osage Nation, the Missouri known the Oto and the Illini Confederacy, as well as the Iowa tribes, and many other tribes as the custodians of the land where we reside, occupy, and call home. We recognize their sovereignty was never ceded after unjust removal. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm and support tribal sovereignty, history, and experiences by elders past, present, and 7 generations yet to come through their continued connection to this land. We promote the inclusion of tribal history and current challenges faced by tribal communities, including environmental justice and land protection, food sovereignty, health inequity, and missing and murdered women. We encourage your own research on tribal removal and sovereignty and the history of the land on which you reside. At the Brown School, we seek to promote equity, racial, and social justice through fair and inclusive, transparent, and sustainable practices and processes. We aspire to be catalysts for change and transformation, identifying barriers and co-creating solutions that will lead to greater justice. We believe that all members of society are entitled to respect and may contribute to and participate in the decisions that determine the circumstances in which we live, regardless of positionality or social identity. We recognize that historically our respective professions and disciplines have not always upheld a commitment to support and advance the diverse perspectives held by members of our society, and believe it is our individual and collective responsibility to rectify this reality, as it does not align with our shared ideas and values. And now I will ask our Assistant Dean for Community Partnerships to come on stage and provide you with a welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia Williams. I am the Assistant Dean for Community Partnerships. And right off the bat, I want to thank the Black History Month Committee for all of the tireless work that we have put together to pull this particular series off. Thanks to all in our audience and virtually who have joined the Brown School's Open Classroom to celebrate the second of 6 installments of Black History Month. We're hoping and inviting you to go online and to register for tomorrow afternoon, Deborah Ahmed from Better Family Life. February the 13th will be Dr. Jason Newland from the WashU's School of Medicine. The 22nd will be Kendi, the writer, who will be a presenter for us. And we will have our closer as M.K. Stallings from the Regional Arts Commission. Our theme this year is the art of activism. And our story begins here in St. Louis with the first local artist to be recognized for her talent and creativity. Elizabeth Keckley was an enslaved seamstress who stitched her way to freedom and to the inner circle of the President of the United States and First Lady Mary Todd's fashion designer. From Scott Joplin to Josephine Baker, to Chuck Berry, to Maya Angelou, to Dick Gregory, and to Brother cbabi that we have with us today. These artists and countless other Black creators from St. Louis have unapologetically transformed the world stage. As the struggle for Black lives, Black history, voting rights, diversity, and Black health continue, the art of activism is not merely a theme, it is a call to action. So with that, I'd like to introduce our colleague, our esteemed colleague, Dr. Deanna Perez to the stage. Dr. Perez is an assistant professor at the Brown School at Washington University. She is also associate director, Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity and Equity, which is a co-sponsor of this event. Please join me by welcoming Dr. Perez.
Thank you so much, Cynthia and Vera, for this invitation. Thank you for everybody that's joining online. We have 62 people, so I'm glad that more people are joining. I have the pleasure and honor of introducing cbabi today, but first I just want to say a few words about the CRE2. So for those of you who are not familiar, we provide funding for research, we provide travel awards, support for students. We do a lot of transdisciplinary work and collaborations. Just last Friday, we had a wonderful speaker, Heather McGee, talking about her book, The Sum of Us. So if you are not familiar with our center, I invite you to go visit the website and join us as a faculty or student affiliate. So now I'm going to introduce cbabi. Bringing paper home to her son, Clifford Miskell Jr. for artwork after a long day of work started as a way to evade boredom and to occupy idle hands. Neither he nor his mother could have imagined that art will take center stage in the way. Following his graduation from Grambling State University, where he changed his name to cbabi bayoc, art led to a one-season job at Six Flags, where he became a caricature artist. Determined to never return for another season of enduring harsh temperatures and harsh art critics, cbabi began studying various artists to define his style and improve his skill. The determination to not return to Six Flags led to what has become a solid career that has spanned nearly 3 decades. Today, cbabi bayoc is an internationally renowned San Luis, Missouri-based visual artist, muralist, and New York Times best-selling illustrator for Goodnight Racism, authored by Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. The evolution of Clifford Miskell Jr. into cbabi's name was fortuitous, because he will spend his career working to live up to his name, which is an acronym for Creative Black Artists Battling Ignorance, Black African Youth of Creativity. Acrylic, paint, a flat brush, and an iPad have become not only his voice, but his weapon of choice in battling the ignorance of prejudice and racism by showing the dopeness of Black people. His work has included challenging the perception of Black fatherhood through his 365 Days with Dad project, telling the untold stories of the unsung and painting characters that allow everyday people to feel seen. You can find his work in schools, hospitals, nonprofit organizations, and business around the world. In addition, he has had the honor of adding to the work of individuals such as Prince, Dr. Nikole Hannah Jones with the 1619 Project, Dr. Ibram X. Kendi for Goodnight Racism, Chris Lighty, and notable companies including Hydro Flask, Coca-Cola, the Smithsonian Institute, New Line Cinema, and Worldwide Technology. cbabi's work is also in the collections of notable art collectors such as Maxine Clark, David Stewart, Prince, Dr. Nikole Hannah Jones, Ken and Nancy Kranzberg, Jack Flaherty, Karen Burnett, Peter Martin, and the Marco Farm. When cbabi isn't creating, you can find him watching documentaries, daydreaming about perfecting his pickleball game, and plotting his next antics to keep his wife laughing. So please join me in welcoming cbabi.
I'm going to start first saying that you all have proof that I have permission to go back on the pickleball court. I am definitely a fan. I played so much, I hurt my shoulder, and I met my wife. I didn't go back on the court because murals was popping, and I couldn't, make sure the bag was good by playing a game. So I haven't played since. So I do dream about it. My paddle is actually in my truck. No joke. But yes, thank you for having me here. This is cool. Today is really going to be more process because when I go to schools and talk to kids, I always use sports as an analogy that with art, really what you're seeing the game, but you're not seeing all the ice baths and the diet and the dreaming and everything else that actually has to happen, because the game is what, an hour, 2 hours long, but there's so much of your life that goes into preparing for that game. I'm going to show you what actually happens. What is activism? Like, what is the actual, how does the artwork show up? Because it's great for a mural to show up, but how did it actually get there? So we'll talk a little bit about that today. Talk a little bit about Goodnight Racism. We got some great questions that is going to give me, and we'll proceed from there. Am I going the right way? One more. Here we go. So art is my voice. I literally draw and paint all the time. I have challenged myself to pick up crocheting again, to not work on my iPad as much. I do love crocheting, but yeah, I could literally paint and draw from the time I wake to the time I sleep, because I'm always thinking about something new. There's so much I want to produce that I won't be able to get to, because it literally, it's not even just a job. I just really enjoy even speaking on something, or just the process of creating it all just always feels good. So 1619, how did it actually happen? So if my memory serves well, my wife didn't even let me know, because her company manages my company. So I actually didn't even know, she didn't want me to know about this project till it was definite that it was going to happen, because I get a lot of inquiries, but people get sticker shock, because it doesn't matter that I've been doing this for 30 years. They still want some ridiculous prices for the amount of work that they ask for. They don't realize what goes into it. We often talk about how there's no secret in why people don't really trip off or respect art. They don't even respect the process of art. And I'm not really even complaining about this project, but it's really pretty normal. This is a 5-day process. And you'll see as I go through these slides what happened in that 5 days. But the 5 days isn't a miracle. It's only, again, because of all the ice baths, all the drawing on the iPad for 24 hours. Like, because art is what I dream and breathe and always practice, efficiency just becomes what it is. I'm a free throw shooter. Like, I can hit that bucket. So So I'll go back. So this is actually, I'll come back to that. So when we first were going to do this project, I came up with the slides. I came up with the image. Oh, it didn't show up in here. That's all right. I came up with the design as if it was going to be on one wall because most of my murals have been a rectangle of some sort. And so the way I've put my designs together is collage style. I find a subject or two because it's always some kind of person that needs to be represented on a mural. I put that down, and then from there I start filling in elements to give it, you know, some substance, so you know what you're looking at. And so with this one, it was a rectangle like usual, but when we got there and she's in Waterloo, Iowa, and Waterloo, Iowa is a city, but it's also Waterloo, Iowa is the black neighborhood of Iowa. You know, pretty much I've heard that most the black folks that live in Iowa live in Waterloo. And when you get to Waterloo, it's not a great site. I applaud Nikole for doing her work. This is her hometown because it needs to happen, and because there are still black children that live there, they need some resources. And so she decided to put her 1619 Freedom School in Waterloo, Iowa. So, and it was also really dope because my sister went to University of Northern Iowa, which is right next door in Cedar Falls, I believe. So I was able to go see her campus, which I hadn't seen in 30 years. So a lot of context. So when we got to the school, her school is based, well, it was based, it's recently moved, but it was inside of a Masonic hall, and they gifted them a classroom. And so within this classroom this is what we saw. Like that wood wasn't there. That wood is something we purchased. But we saw these partitions, and there were 8 of them. And so me and Amber immediately realized, okay, this isn't the rectangle we thought it was. The blessing is that each of these sections were exactly 8 feet, so nothing had to be cut on our part. And so honestly, we did this on faith. We just went and bought the wood as is. I painted it, we left it, we drove away. We came back to the opening and everything was hung, everything looked great as if it was intentional. So again, I'm sharing you what actually really happens. And so efficiency, you know, the career of being an artist is very much based on faith because we paint and draw all the time without a defined owner of what we're creating. Like we create with the hope of sharing our vision, but of course to live off of this, you know, I'm 52. Am I 52? I'm 51 years old. I'll be 52 this year. For 30 years, I've waited to be 50. So now I'm in the 50s. So this is a blur. So, yeah, 52, got 3 kids in college. So yeah, I don't just paint, hang it on the wall and look at it. Like I need people to buy it. So, but just being an artist in general, we create just because, and we don't know who's going to purchase. So, but we have to do it because we don't know when moments like this will show up. And if I didn't prepare for it, this would not have happened the way it did. But these partitions were here. And so we called ahead, we ordered online, Home Depot. We ordered panels based on the size, the original size that we quoted them. And those fit into those 8 spaces, into those, 8 spaces, the 4 spaces. And then we actually had some extra boards, but we'll get to that. And so what you actually see here is I'm physically, you know, what we had to do is I had to go back to our room that evening during the day, painting all the boards black. So I like to paint the boards black, especially in schools. I have them paint a wall black so that a week before I even get there, kids are tripping out. They're either drawing on it or they just don't know what is going on because now we have this big black wall in our school. And then I show up and I just smack it with color, and then they're like, oh, okay. And then they just actually get to see it happen. And so here we got the boards, I painted them black and then just start sketching. Like I have the original sketch, but with every sketch that I do from my murals, it's always permission to get to the job. And I say that because I don't let the client know that I'm very much an improviser. So once I get to the wall, things are going to change just because the sketch is boring to me, or there's something missing, or I hear a kid saying something, or there's something hanging on the wall, or just having driven into the city, things hit me, you know, and then just these things have to go up into the design in some way. And so the same thing here. This was Monday. We still were leaving Saturday morning. Like, look, we driving off. So this has to happen. And so there's really no time to think about it. In the introduction, she mentioned 365 days with dad. Yes, that was a fantastic project. It's a very social project, but it also was a great education. And again, that was when they said talk about Kobe going 4 a.m, doing free throws. That's what 365 days with dad was, and I didn't realize it. Even the job, I did not hate Six Flags. I just couldn't do more than one season, but that too, having to draw under pressure like that did something to my brain. I don't feel like I got better while I was out there, but it all definitely played a part in my DNA on who I am now. But this is me. I'm actually sketching Ida B. Wells. If you follow Nikole on X, then you know she goes by Ida Bay Wells, because that is her hero. So I knew that Ida B. Wells had to be in the mural. And so I'm sketching her, and to her right, I have one of my all-stars, and I did as a miniature likeness of what Nikole would have looked like as a child. And I also, you can see looking, have Ida B looking down, but she's actually looking at Nikole as if knowing that, somebody's going to come forth to, keep pushing forth journalism on the realm of speaking our truth. And that wasn't the original design. Before that, it was just Ida B. Wells. And again, everything was in panels. I'll show you as one of the slides shows up. So we're at the 1619 school. We kind of had an idea of what she wanted to see, but we knew it was all about education. She sent some quotes. I don't know if she mentioned Linda Brown in the board of education, but of course that had to be in the mural. And so this panel here was dedicated to her. Each one kind of had a theme. So she's standing here beside the Supreme Court, and I had no idea how I was going to paint her name. I just figured it for the kids' sake, putting her name on there. I love painting fonts, so that was going to be, again, a lot of times when I paint, I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I just really trust, honestly, that as long as I keep moving my hand, and that's pretty much my metaphor for anything, whether I'm sad, scared, depressed, I go to my brush and I can usually fix things. If I need money, it's not going to happen unless I paint. So it's like all around, that is always my metaphor, to just pick up that brush and it's going to work out. And so here you can see it a little bit more developed. So you see her, looking down at her. And again, this might have been day one. I put music on and I just paint. It's nice that I had the slide of me standing there looking at it, because usually I don't look like this. I'm thinking while I'm painting. But every now and then you have to stand back just to make sure it's all making sense. But I had no idea it was going to go up in that top right corner, but I knew. And also I didn't just work on this one panel. I bounced around while I thought about the other ones. And this is just putting two panels next to each other, because I kind of had a thought of which ones would line up best. But also one thing about me, when I walk away from a mural emotionally tied, I'm not. Like, it can get marked, it can get vandalized, they could decide they ain't like it. My feelings really don't get hurt. There's a process. As I age and as I enjoy doing what I'm more and more, the process is the gift. So I figured I got what I got from it. Hopefully, they got what they wanted from it. So, but I lined them up in a way that I thought they would look good, or based on the original design that created. So always wanted to make sure that there was a young Black boy present. So he was large on purpose. And of course, this is a camera angle. It's not that big, but it's cool to see art from this perspective, because I usually see things so up close that I can't tell from a distance what they all look like. But that quote, believe in yourself, learn, and never stop wanting to build a better world. That's really what, daily purpose in doing this. So this is a very personal project. This piece here is called The Future is Bright, Norman Rockwell. So I don't have any issues with Norman Rockwell. I think my thing with Norman Rockwell, when I look at all the covers that we created and thinking about the 1920s, and I love watching documentaries on Reconstruction and all that, like, I knew what was happening in the 1920s. just from research or from what I watched and what I heard. Then it looks very pretty on the Sunday morning, on the Sunday evening, Saturday evening covers that Norman Rockwell did. So I like to use his work, but didn't repurpose it. And so because this is a school with, I mean, I believe almost all 100% Black children. Yeah, I wanted the graduates to look like folks that they could feel they could grow into. And so this panel here is actually with Ruby Bridges. Yeah, and it was just fun to do. So again, all this had to happen. I didn't have time to think, didn't have time to be nervous. I just had to keep painting. And so this is the one paint a little bit more developed. And then right here, education is key to unlock the door of freedom. In my mind, I thought this, and I think this was actually an extra panel that went right by the door. I thought it would, the 1619, like the way it is, wasn't how it was. The fist, the chains, the number was in the original design, but to break it up like this wasn't in the plan, but we love how this panel turned out. And I believe it's at the entrance as kids walk into the classroom. That little symbol between the fist and the 1619, that was a last minute decision, but sometimes I get the last minute idea and I just don't even think twice. I just do it, even though I really didn't have time. Again, putting high emphasis on young Black boys and just the fact that we have so much genius within our neighborhoods, just if kids will be given a chance. So wanted just them to not only just see Black girls, but just break that myth that, you know, Black men don't want to be educated as well. And this is the whole panel. So you got the young men. We both love Spike, so we put that X on his hat. The Black skin is not a badge of shame, but rather a glorious symbol of national greatness. Marcus Garvey. Again, just the kids, they only see the neighborhoods they see, and we wanted to battle those thoughts that they might get just because we don't know what kids are taking in when they see their neighborhood, but they can't necessarily always feel love because they're just not seeing it. So we want this to be a haven. So that was what that was. And then Ruby Bridges, again, I have a series of kids called Kebabi's All-Stars, and they all have their fist up. They're all wearing Chucks. So All-Stars is a play on words. But they used to be called the IDQ kids, which stood for I Don't Quit. And in Norman Rockwell's painting of Ruby Bridges, there was a tomato thrown at the wall. And I believe it was the N-word, but we changed it to I Don't Quit, but still made it like it was dripping. Yeah, and then that was, again, was just one of my favorite panels. This is the free speech panel complete. I love painting font. We have a typewriter like this in our home. And this is a back and forth, like Amber's a co-pilot. So we came up with the eye and the pencil as a shape. I couldn't remember what the 2020, was that the year we actually did it? The Pulitzer, I believe. Yep. And so we wanted to do that coin to honor that. And I always put a bird in the mural to kind of as a signature. Here's that panel complete. And here's the Linda Brown. So again, each of these was 4x8. So it's a good amount of work. I paint strictly in acrylic because it dries immediately. And so it goes well with my pace. And I need immediate gratification. I don't have time to wait. You know. And then here are the panels kind of lined up as I finished them. And so it's always nice one of my favorite things, even though I see whether it's a panel or it's a wall, once it's done, it still doesn't look done until I take the tape off, I remove all the drop cloths. And so for even to see it like this, I usually don't do this till I know I'm not going to touch it anymore. But also if I do see something, I'm going to paint it because I'm one of those who will drive away and just be like, man, if I just would have took 5 more minutes to fix that letter B or whatever. So I'll do whatever I do to get it done. But once we got here, I was pleased with it. But we had 3 more panels. And why not? We were honored to have been asked to do this project, so we gifted them 3 more panels of work. And so one came up with this, I found this image on an album cover, and I'm struck, I love chiaroscuro? Terrible with art terms, but I love that strong light. And so I was drawn to this photo of this young man, and then we found this quote, "I only debate my equals, all others I teach." And I thought that would go great with this stereotypical image or what we usually see on TV when they're not really saying somewhat great things about our young Black men. And so I thought that was a great panel to lead there for them. And then, of course, Uncle James, we wanted to do a nod to James Baldwin. He was one of the names that she gave as inspiration. So this was in process. And then found these quotes: read, 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 never stop reading. And when you can't, read some more. Had to have that on there. And then our crown has already been brought and paid for. All we have to do is wear it. And that's just telling the kids, like, look, your greatness is already here. Just got to put it to work. But then that wasn't enough. It didn't have enough pop for me. So just take it a step further. And I'm always trying to give a nod to Basquiat. So got his crown in the back. And then I like the color pink. I like mixing pink with quote unquote masculine things or images of men or images of, I love pink. I love to include pink just to break that ridiculous idea that we can't wear pink. And so the original crown's still up there scratched in, but again, I had to work fast. And then this whole quote isn't on there, but we're at the 1619 Freedom School, so we had to take it all the way back to when we weren't supposed to be reading. So I saw this photo online. We don't know if she was teaching her in private or if this was after slavery had ended, but we know even after slavery had ended, there were still some rules against some of us learning to read. So these 3 panels these were not included when we came up there. We had no idea this was going to happen, but we're all about doing as much art as we can, getting our art in people's hands. So it really fit with our mission. So this was a quote that I used from Ida B. Wells: "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Lord have mercy if that still isn't the truth." And yeah, that's what I love to use my brush for. So here's the original sketch. So there's a lot more than that went into the murals, right? So, again, and I thought that was a lot, but once those panels were broke up, we just added a lot more. And then here was what we came up with. But even that wasn't going to work. So that was elongating the mural, but then even that still didn't happen. So, but you can see how. So this at least gave me an idea of where to go. And then once I put the panels in front of me, I think about, okay, now how can I break this up into themes? I tried to keep the panel next to Ida B. Wells in black, but it just wasn't going to work. And so he lost out. I always have to remind myself too that those who are going to receive the murals have no idea what it was supposed to look like. So there are no wrongs and no rights. And so we just try to present the best thing we can. And that's something I like to tell a lot of other artists too, when they're like really worried about something looking perfect or looking complete. Like, only you know in your head and even you don't know what the final product's going to be. So just relax, trust your hand, trust what you've learned up to this point, and just do it. And so I always have to remind myself that, even at this age, like that is a constant reminder. So moving on past, so that was the 1619 school mural project. Was also asked to talk about, it would have made sense to have a slide with the cover. But was asked by Ibram X. Kendi to do Goodnight Racism. We were contacted by the publishers, and this was a very scary thought and idea, because just seeing that title, what on earth and how does that translate to a children's book? Goodnight Racism. I wouldn't have thought the day that we were asked to do this that would be the cover, because that's not what the first thing came to mind. I have no idea what to think Goodnight Racism should look like. But just hearing the idea that he wanted it to be something that could relate to children, share hard subjects, but then also provide some hope. I shared this one slide of the book. I hope that you'll go online or you'll go purchase the book. so you can see the entire project. But once we got into it and we started working on it, I loved it. This children's book was also great because when I get asked to do children's books, I sometimes cringe because, again, people don't understand how much goes into it. And also, I don't really like drawing the same thing over and over again. So if I got to draw the same character, I'm not saying I won't. It's not my favorite thing to do. So when they came to me and were like, we would love the idea of each page being a different family, I was like, I'm all in. This is right up my alley. But even with that, I still had to console them, and we still had to have some conversations about what this can look like. And so this spread here came to me based on the fact that having done so many murals in schools, and I've seen children get there early in the morning to have breakfast or to take a sack lunch home with them after school, I kind of had that connection and that thought. And so with this, talking about some kids don't have food, and because of unfair rules, unjust treatment, they don't have beds. I knew I wanted the same character to be holding the sack as the main image on one page, but on the opposite page, you can see that it's the same kid going to a shelter at night. But then how do you not make that not sad? Well, hopefully by the facial expressions of the families, there's still love there. There's still a community. So we want to also include some words so that they could see what they experienced. I think the word FA was fair, but I mean, family was up above the little boy's head. Yeah. So the spreads, we had farms, but in this project here came after 1619, and it actually was good because actually as we were driving up there and seeing all the farmland, listening to the 1619 project and talking about farming. So there was a spread in this book about that. And we also, if any of y'all are dog lovers and you're members of Barcade here in St. Louis, was asked to do a mural for them. And this particular area is where they do their adoptions. And they wanted to have the image representing the imbalance in adoptions or pet ownership among African Americans versus everyone else. There was a panel in here where that nod to the peanuts and the bird. We actually originally, and I say we because Amber helps me in a lot of these sketches, we actually had a German Shepherd, real strong graphic. And I believe we had a row of silhouette black bodies underneath it. And in a year, and they were like, okay, wait a minute, that's a little bit, it's a little bit too much. So and they were like, hey, you talking about why there might be a disparity? Like, we ain't had the best relationship with dogs. Like, so, but yeah, that didn't make the cut. Yeah. And so going into my 30th year, even with the 365 days of dad, there was no signs of dads in prison and all this. It was really about, all these moments and experiences and all these lighthearted moments. That's kind of been my approach up to now on how to present the dopeness of Black folks to everyone else. Like but also, yeah, I want kids to see themselves in the art. I want everybody to see themselves. I want everybody to see us in art. Like there's a level of respect and a level of value that is assumed when you see something hanging in a museum, whether somebody felt that artist was important, the subject was important. And so I'm amongst a group of artists that feel the need to keep pushing that. Like, of course, Kerry James Marshall, I love his whole purpose. Like, he is very clear that his whole mission is to get in museums, which is, well, he's done it. But for me to say that at this day would be ambitious to me, meaning I remember when he came here and spoke, and he was like, anybody can paint a small jazz painting, but how about painting a 4 by 8 foot one? And I'm like, okay, that sounds great, but you need real estate for that, so you can't just. And so I have a lot of thoughts about this whole art world thing, that I won't get into now. I know because I got some questions coming up here. But where I am right now, I keep getting asked to paint murals. Folks know who I am. They don't really ask for a lot of sketching up front. That's a blessing and a curse sometimes, but you know, but it's a really sign of people, you know, appreciating what I've done up until this point. You know, I have no qualms in saying, you know, who I paint, what I paint. I can paint anything, of course, you know, this has been a question, but yeah, if I'm doing something for myself, it hasn't been that long that Black folks have been able to paint themselves representationally, like in any capacity. So to think that, you know, doing something other than that would be unnatural, it just doesn't make sense in my mind. Like, it's just not even a thought. But I'm very intentional about who sees my work and what they feel like, you know, if I wasn't around, what they're thinking, I'm thinking. So this is who I am, you know, so, and I'm gonna keep on doing it. So there's my presentation. Thank y'all.
Good when you have assistants. And I have to say, I put a lot of time into preparing the slide set, and I was supposed to be moving them down. So when cbabi got up here, he looked, and then he had to go through a few slides because I forgot to do my job. But thank you. You've been of great assistance this morning. I just want to say thank you for coming and thank you for sharing your slide set. I got to sit with these for a good bit of time this weekend, in particular. And I was amazed, but hearing him talk through the slides, I'm even more amazed. So I'm going to get right to the questions. And the first one is, you're rooted here in St. Louis. And St. Louis has a lot of history, but I always see St. Louis as representing everywhere USA, because most cities like St. Louis, or most cities have a bit of St. Louis in them. So can you tell us how St. Louis or the broader region has influenced your artwork?
I am from O'Fallon, Illinois. So I've been there, went to SWIC, BAC, then I went to Grambling and came back. And when I had to think about myself when I tell people I love St. Louis, like, what does that really mean? And I think any city is the people. And so as far as influence, honestly, because my whole career has been here, not too many places I can go where people won't come up and say something to me or talk about how the arts influenced them or what is done for them. And so not necessarily an artistic response, but from that perspective, just because I've been doing it here and people seeing me grow to where I am now, I'm very much influenced by the folks who've just been on this journey with me. So this is home on all levels. So.
Okay. And so tell us how well, let me phrase this differently so I give you some room. Have events like the pandemic or the death of Michael Brown and the subsequent activism impacted your artistic endeavors or your activist endeavors?
Yes. So 365 Days of Dad, in my mind at first wasn't a social activist project. I realized after I started working on it, people started telling me that's what it was. And then I had to be intentional about all the fathers being Black because, again, I didn't ever think about it until I started getting emails from families of all walks. And then, you know, either the friends or colleagues were like, nope, you can't do that. And I was like, and I don't like conflict. And so the idea of telling somebody I can't paint their dad or their husband because he ain't Black, I was just like, oof. But I realized quickly that it had to happen because if I didn't do it, nobody else was going to do it. And so the reason I bring that project up is because that led to folks asking me to be parts of conversations. Because before, I ain't say stuff wasn't happening in St. Louis, but of course, once Michael Brown was killed, it was amped up. But before that, I wasn't invited to talks like this. Like, people like my work because I guess they like my style or, you know, whatever. But as far as speaking, that didn't happen until I did that project in my mind. And it literally about a quick story about when Michael Brown was killed, of course, people are like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, what do you mean what I'm gonna do? Like, why is it always assumed that as soon as something happens, artivism, as has been coined by brother Nicholas. That wasn't, I don't think that was always a thing. Of course, in the 60s, yeah, we always use art to speak on things, but for something to happen and people to immediately look at all the artists online, like, what y'all gonna do? Like, I don't like doing another portrait. I go to Dick Blick and I'm standing in line, and of course, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, people keep asking me. And then, the white cat in front of me, he turns around while we're standing in line and looks at me, and he's just like, whoa, I bet your kids don't talk back to you. And I was like, what? All right. I was like, say, my kids just see dad. And I was like, there you go. I was like, hearing all this foolishness on TV about how big Mike was, and and I'm bald, bearded, black man, my first wife ex-wife used to get on me about jogging around the neighborhood in my sweatsuit at night because I ain't think about it. She's like, sir, you can't do that. And I'm like, Michael Brown. So I was like, so I came up with this image, rest in peace, son, tall black man, two young boys. One was representing Trayvon. And so that definitely, I came up with a whole line of kids standing in front of the flag. And now, shoot, we got some stories around the fist, like good grief. Like, yeah. So very influenced by the region and these stories and stuff just keeps coming up, but I'm very much influenced by all that.
So now I'm going to switch to what I think is really an artist question. So what are some of the difficulties that you found in your artist career, and what advice can you give to others facing similar challenges?
Let me say, I'm a love wash you. I don't like doing anything in Black History Month. I don't like doing nothing for Juneteenth. Why? Because that's when I would always get asked. There's one time I got asked by a school. He's like, I got February free in 2 years. I was like, in 2 years from now, you got February free. So that's when you want me to do a show. This has been a constant, like my emails flooded right before we were just talking on drive over here. We're proud to let you know that you've been honored for Black History Month. Like, I live here. Like, why are you just talking with your students with me now? Like, so that's been the thing. Advice, I didn't tell anybody else to do anything. This is just my own not wanting to do nothing during this month or during Juneteenth. So that's been a thing. Also, thinking about the 1619 school, like this was the first time all the children were able to be Black without being an issue. And again, I have no problem painting everybody else, but there's a lot of times when I'll paint or send a design in, and I think I have diversity in it, but they're still like, could you, one on these glasses and one on, and I get, but there's sometimes it's like, okay, like sometimes I just tell people, like, I'll put glasses on. I'm not going to send you a new sketch with some glasses. I'm like, that's just a line. Like, just trust me. I heard you. I take my job seriously. But there was one time I've done several commissions for Children's Hospital, and I sent them sketches and they're like, oh, everything needs to be, we need to make sure everybody can see themselves. And I'm like, well, there's not anything with Black folks in here yet. So that wasn't a thing before, but now you're asking me to do it. I got to paint everybody. It's like, okay, I need the check. I'll do it. I get asked after I did 365 Days of Dad, can you put your fatherhood project on display? No, I'm just like, okay. I was like, all this time, everything had to be diverse, but once I put that project up, they said that was one of their most favorite projects that they had hanging in the hospital. And I was like, see, it's like people can relate to fatherhood. They don't have to, it's like, it's okay to let people know that, Black dads are around, and it's not excluding anybody else. It's just, so those are some of the things that come up. Like, even when we don't want to be politicized, like say, just pick up a brush, got to make a decision, got to make a choice, so.
Do you feel like your art has been overly politicized, or?
No, I don't think it. I haven't really thought that deep about that. That's a good.
Okay, but you got me sitting here thinking that.
So, it could be, but it's interesting, again, just had a thought about me being here in St. Louis, and just recently, I was given the title of street artist, and I just put, I popped my collar a little bit, like, all right, I haven't graduated. But on the back end of that, before that, when I was younger and I was here, without fail, people would introduce me, and I felt like Basquiat moment, like, oh, this is cbabi. He's one of our local graffiti artists. And I'm like, I have never touched a can. Like, I've never touched a wall. I spray paint now, you know, because I had taught myself that. But back then, I ain't thought about doing graffiti. But he's a black artist. He must be a graffiti artist. So,
But this leads into another question. So clearly not all artists, including not all Black artists, infuse activism into their work. Can you share how you became comfortable using your art as activism?
partially being the caricature artist, Six Flags. I have a very interesting sense of humor. The whole even tattooing my neck happened while I was out in Wildwood, and I just kept doing murals out there, and I kept having kids say, "Hey, mom, dad, that's cbabi," and parents not even looking, grabbing the kid and going out the door even faster. And I was like, you know what? I'm already tall, I'm black. I'm just keep on. Even the tattoos are safe. It says truth. It don't say nothing about 63110 or whatever. It just is, But yeah, this is part of my that, and then having the kids with the fist up, no, it feels great. I don't know if there was a time maybe I considered. There are moments when I just want to paint. I just want to paint abstract. You don't have no deep meaning. I just love color. I want to move it around. But then also, I love the feeling of when people come up to you and they tell me what they're feeling when they look at my work. And so I'm fed by that. And so I know, tattoo my hand, God's tool, all right, you got a purpose. So let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to get in a couple of questions from the audience. And if you don't ask questions, then I've got a few more.
Silly question. I'm start off by that, but I'm just interested. When you sleep, do you dream in color? And have you ever gotten up and had to paint what you dreamed about?
I don't think so. I don't think I've woken up to paint what I've dreamed about. I can wake up in the middle of the night and have to paint. But yeah, I don't know if there may be sometimes if I'm stressing out over a job, I'll dream about it. But yeah, I don't dream in black and white, which would be cool. But yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely dream in color.
Okay, so picking up on the theme of dreaming, you said dreaming several times in your presentation as an active practice. And this is something I talked to my colleagues about. You're not talking about the dreaming when you're sleeping. You're talking about a different practice of dreaming. Can you talk a little bit more about what that experience is like, what that entails, how you create space for the dreaming?
That's good. Ooh, I don't know what I pick up on the dreaming while I'm up. This has always been part of a dream. I ain't kick myself on because and this is good practice because I'm like, ooh, that'd have been a dope side to have. That slide would have made sense. And so I've always seen myself talking, even though I used to be scared to death to talk, but now it's like, let's just have fun with it. I almost got up here and did something real goofy just to get it started, but no, again, it goes back to just picking up the brush. Like I have dreams of series, have dreams of being on big walls. But it always comes back to as long as I keep painting, it's going to happen. And just things that we keep speaking of, we start getting these emails and things happening. So the more we keep putting stuff out there, but also I'm told, don't put out nightmares. Watch what I say and talk about. So because that'll show up too. So just very intentional about what I want to do and does what I'm painting and all that, is it going in that direction? Because if not, then, you gotta let God know what your intentions are. And, your intentions will show up in your actions. So I'm constantly doing things, even if it's a 5x7 painting or a 2x3 inch, it still goes along with what I'm working on and how I think. I don't know why I look at you like you asked me the question.
We've got one more.
Thank you for sharing. So I'm curious about how you would say, if at all, creating and artistry relates to your wellness. And so you had mentioned something about just being stressed and being able to wake up and paint. So I'm curious because I'm interested in this intersection of art and wellness and creativity and wellness. And I'm curious about how you would say it relates to your wellness.
Yeah, I'm working on that because I like to watch some dark stuff when I'm painting. Like, yeah, I watch deep in Reconstruction, slavery, and like stuff I shouldn't bring me peace. But I want to paint more of those things. So I think I'm helping myself if I put it in my subconscious, but that probably ain't true. I probably need to not think about it. So as far as my wellness, I'm on a BetterHelp app. So I got a therapist to talk to once a week. Again, back to crocheting tonight. Because taking away the technology of looking at my tablet the whole time. And I've been sleeping. So there you go. Because when I don't sleep and I'm manic, and I used to say that because I explained to my wife, like, I'm in my artistic vibe. She's like, no, sir. You're like, your eyes are dancing and something else is happening. So, and you know what? Being able to sleep, I could talk at this pace. Had I not been sleeping, I'd been talking 100 miles an hour and thought I was just excited. But yeah, so sleep very recently has been great. Got me a new pillow that my wife bought. So it's been nice. So yes. And again, just painting the subjects and painting those things, like they really, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not so much fed on how much people say they like something or love something on in social media, which is great. I'm glad I've gotten out of that whole counting and waiting for people to respond thing. Because now I know, because we were talking earlier, like I hope more people show up, and like 1 or 1,000. Those are supposed to be there, supposed to be there. Those who receive the art receive it. Like I could have 1,000 people love my paintings, but no one of them buy anything. I have 2 people buy it and they fighting over it. Like, I mean, so there you go. So yeah.
So what's next for cbabi, as much as you can share, and what are you currently working on or excited about?
I had to write it down because I can never remember. So so I'm gonna be doing a Mill Creek mural here soon on SLU's campus, at corner Grand and Lindell. We got some cool partnerships coming up and sponsorships that we can't share their names with yet. Continuing this growing relationship with WashU. What else do we have? There's a local designer, Brandon Vine Johnson, where that came up, but Brandon Vine, and he actually gave me a lot of fabric to paint, and so we're gonna work on a series of clothes together, a fashion show, and then we got some other cool stuff that we're gonna be doing together. Yeah, other than that, I got more murals. I'm gonna have a show in August called "Does My Fist Offend You?" So I'm gonna hit the gut a little bit with some of the artwork finally. So that's gonna be coming up. I got a show this Friday, opening up at Hauska Gallery in the Central West End. And I'm excited about that body of work. That's gonna be dropping that off now. After we leave here, I got to go pick up the work and go drop it off. Yeah, and also learning Adobe Illustrator because it's time. I've been asked forever. I keep scooting around it, but now I'm like, okay, I need to get in there because I want my stuff to be blown up as big as it can be. So I constantly learning new ways to work. I taught myself to spray paint about 4 years ago. So now if I could do that, I can learn Adobe Illustrator. So. And in April, we have, yes, of course. So in April, if you've seen Mike Tyson's Broadway show, so in April, I'm going to do that version of my art career. So I'm going to do the Green Finch on Jefferson, a small theater company. I'm going to do cbabi's life, for 4 nights. So. And that was because I told her that I thought I was going to do one 365 days a day. And she's like, "Should do your art career." And I was like, "Okay, everything's great in theory." She's like, "All right, well, let's book a date." And I'm like, "Uh-oh, all right." And then you got this mural request and we walked in and, he went, "Yeah, and there's a theater next door," and walked in, it was Black Box. And I was like, okay. And I was like, "Oh, this is just kind of lining up. And so actually I meet with him tomorrow, like we worked it out between our mural and compensation and all that, but part of the package is he's helping me write the script.
Okay, you know what? I thought my life was busy, but I want to thank you for being here with us today. I want to ask the audience to give one more round of applause for our kickoff speaker for Black History Month. Our thanks to the Black History Month Planning Committee and Cynthia Williams for her wisdom and thought in creating the space and opportunity for this event this year and every year. I also want to thank Sarah Sims, again, Assistant Director of Professional Development and Open Classroom, for hosting the online audience. And I want to thank Diana Para Perez and Cree2 for co-sponsoring this event with all of us. Thank you all so much, and thank you for being here. And thanks to our online audience.